Good morning, Kalimera. I want to welcome all those who have tuned in to our live streaming of the Divine Liturgy this morning. Whether you're from Tampa or from another community or have just stumbled upon us, we welcome you. Before I give my sermon, I want to say that it's really hard being here without people here. I have had many Divine Liturgies where there have been few people in the pews. Many weekday liturgies are like that. I've had a lot of liturgies where we have not had the choir. Again, weekday liturgies, and a month in the summer. But this is the first time on Palm Sunday that I've celebrated liturgy in an empty church. I got a little emotional when it was time to pray the Lord's Prayer as I turned and looked at the empty pews. In years past, this is the biggest communion liturgy of the year. In fact, we offer communion to all the people in the overflow crowd in the hall before we commune the people in the church. And many years when we get to the front row of the church, I sigh with relief that it's almost done, because there are usually more people in the hall than are in the church. In years past, I've given away my parking space for the day to a visitor and parked on the field. No such problems today. I have to say that on Palm Sunday, the chalice is usually the heaviest that it is the whole year because of the amount of communion in it. And today the chalice felt and feels uncommonly heavy because of what's not in it. This is very hard for you, I know, and it's very hard for me too. I was listening to a podcast the other day about leading through crisis, and one of the points that the speaker made was that crisis creates clarity. Crisis creates clarity. Another thing that the speaker said in this podcast was that leaders will make mistakes in crisis. They'll make a decision. There's a better decision to make. I want to say that I'm doing my best here in a situation that none of us dreamed could ever happen a year ago, or maybe even a month ago. I'm inviting, and I hate to even use the word inviting, people to participate in this service, to help with the reading, a couple people to help in the altar. Later in the week, we'll have a few people singing in a choir on Holy Friday night. And it breaks my heart to ask people not to come and to choose from among all the people of the community a few to come. I'm making other decisions with the parish council to guide our community as we see best in this time. And we are doing our best. So please be patient with me and with us. What does this crisis do for our Christianity? Is it making anything more clear to you about your Christianity? Let me share a few lessons that I'm learning. First, the best unit of time to look at is the day, a day. We read in Matthew 6:34, sufficient for today is its own worries and its own problems. In Psalm 118, verse 24, we read, this is the day the Lord has made. If there's anything that this crisis has brought to the front, is that we can't really plan beyond today. And we can't look at life in the big picture, but this forces us to look at life in the small picture. What can I do with today? Instead of what are the things I've lost today, what are the things that I still have today? From Palm Sunday to Good Friday 2,000 years ago was 5 days. And yet in those 5 days, the bottom dropped out of Christ's ministry, from triumphal entry to heinous execution, from Hosanna to crucify him in 5 days. We think that the coronavirus has changed our city. Look at Jerusalem 2,000 years ago and see how fast everything changed there. Second lesson, things are becoming more clear about the church. The church is about the people. Without people, this beautiful building is just a museum. What makes the church is the people, and the centerpiece of the church obviously is the Lord, surrounded by his people. I want to commend our community because over the years we've done some very good things that have put us actually in good stead to weather this storm. I want to commend our community for its increase in stewardship that allowed the parish council about a year and a half ago to stop passing trays and charging for candles. While many churches will survive a big economic hit because no candles and trays in Holy Week, our parish will not be among them, and I'm thankful to you for that. I'm thankful to Charlie for years ago having the foresight to set up our live stream and to tinker with it over the years so that today we have something that is able to express our services virtually very, very well. I'm thankful that we don't live and die on our festival. I was speaking to a brother priest in another area of the country whose festival is at Memorial Day, and he says with a $30,000 hit they're going to take at Holy Week, with no candles and trays and no festival, they don't even know if they can keep their church afloat. And I will encourage us when we come back to eliminate the festival entirely from our budget, not eliminate it from our lives, but eliminate it entirely from our budget, so that if a crisis ever went through our country like this in November, we wouldn't rely on a dime from the festival. I hope that we are all remaining committed to our charitable giving. I will say as the pastor of this community that our church budgeted a percentage of its budget to go to charity this year, and that will not change. We are committed to helping others because that's what a church does. A third lesson is that security is an illusion. Security is an illusion. We can put all kinds of money aside, and it can all be gone in a short period of time. Just ask the Disney company, a large, economically bulletproof organization, you would think, that's losing millions. Faith is the only thing we can really own, and faith is the only thing that we can take with us. Lesson 4, worship is work. Worship is work. You are all working hard to make this Holy Week relevant in your homes. We don't have the choir in your home, the chanter in your home, the altar boys, the decorations of the church in your home to make do with the computer screen and whatever you can do around you. Will you continue to put this much effort and work into worship once we return? I know there are people who said they're singing on the screen along with Charlie and John, the responses. And I hope when we come back to church, that we're all going to sing together with the choir, that we're all going to work harder to make our worship even stronger. Fifth, many are putting God in the front now because we are anxious. There's a saying that in the foxhole during the battle, everybody is a Christian. Will God still be there, front and center, when this is all over? Or will we only be Christians of crisis? The real Christian is not a Christian of crisis or a Christian of convenience, but a Christian of consistency in good times and in bad times. Lesson 6, our sense of generosity is going to be challenged. When we have plenty, it is easy to be generous. But are we generous when we have less? If your neighbor knocks on the door and says, "Ma'am, sir, I need some toilet paper," will we give one roll away if we have two, or will we hold the two that we have? It's easy to be generous when we have a lot, but real generosity comes out when we have less. Seventh, we are creative people. God made us creative. There have been periods in the history of our church, as recently as last century Russia, and 2 centuries ago in Ottoman oppressed Greece, where the churches had to be creative with how to keep itself going. There have been times when the churches were closed for hundreds of years, and they didn't have video cameras to watch the priest offer the services. People gathered in homes and caves and secret places and somehow managed to keep the faith alive through years and through generations of oppression. Imagine if someone told you you have to keep the faith alive for 16 generations, which is what happened during the Ottoman oppression. 16 generations from now until you can come to the church again. We're having a hard time passing the faith from generation to generation. We know that it takes faith and creativity to do that under normal means. But God made us creative, so even under these extraordinary means, we can keep the faith alive, and we can have a meaningful Holy Week experience. I'll share more at the very end, some of the creative things that we're doing here that I want you to pay attention to this week. Something positive can come out of this, for sure. It's interesting that more people are watching the services than usually do. Yesterday, at one point, Charlie told me there were 130 screens tuned into the service. And if every screen has an average of 2 people, that's 260 people. Our average attendance for Saturday of Lazarus is about 100. It will be interesting to see how many more people than usual are tuning in, perhaps because there's nothing else to do, or there aren't the distractions. And that's a good thing. We have less distraction and more time to focus on the matters at hand, worship. The people in Jerusalem on Palm Sunday didn't understand. They thought the triumphal entry was going to be a political overthrow. They didn't understand Jesus. When they turned around and they didn't see armies of chariots coming after him, and they realized after a couple days there was nothing in it for them as far as material gain, they turned on him. At a time that many of us are suffering material loss, and I'm thinking of the small business owners throughout our country, and especially in our community, and we sent a mailing out the other day with the names of our small business owners with the hope and the encouragement that you'll patronize them and help them. When we realize that materially we're losing, will we turn on Christ or will we stay loyal to him? We have expectations when we are a Christian. Than sitting on a beach. Christianity is not a life of relaxation. It's a life of a steep climb toward heaven. No one ever accomplishes anything other than relaxation at the beach. The accomplishment is only after we've climbed the mountain. We've got a mountain to climb. It's called life. This mountain just got harder because of this crisis. We've got a mountain to climb this week in order to have a meaningful Holy Week. But it starts with this day, this moment, and the next step that we choose to take. This week we relearn and we relive what Jesus Christ did for us. Last Friday night I watched the movie The Passion of the Christ together with my family. This week we see the Passion of the Christ in the Orthodox term open up for us on the screen of our computers and our TVs. We've all seen movies and we've all seen shows that have multiple episodes. And we tune in every week for the next installment of whatever it is we're watching. This year's Holy Week journey will be on the screen, and it will have multiple episodes. There are 17 of them left. In order to truly understand the finale, I encourage you to tune in to as many episodes as you can. This isn't a show, though. It's not entertainment. It's instructions on how to climb the mountain that leads to everlasting life. Those who are on this morning who usually are not on, I'm glad you are here. Those who are from our community who don't normally come to church on Sundays, I'm glad that you're here. I want you to know that we are a thriving community, even in this time of uncertainty. We invite you to join us now, this Holy Week, and when we resume our normal community life. And now we'll offer a procession with just a couple from our children, with a prayer that next year we will have all of our children walking and screaming and waving as they do every year.